Welcome back to the channel. 10 long years of blood and bronze on the plains of Troy have finally ended. The Greeks have burned the city to ash, and King Odysseus has loaded his surviving men onto their ships, setting sail for the island of Ithaca. But back in Ithaca, another decade has passed. Odysseus's wife, Queen Penelope, remains fiercely loyal, holding the throne while their son, Telemachus, is barely old enough to wield a sword. Assuming the king is dead, a coalition of young, aristocratic men from Ithaca and the surrounding islands, the suitors, have moved directly into the royal palace, demanding that Penelope choose one of them to marry. In ancient Greek culture, the highest moral law is Xenia, the sacred obligation of hospitality between a host and a guest. These suitors are doing the exact opposite. They are butchering Odysseus's cattle, draining his wine cellars, and exhausting his wealth, effectively holding his household hostage. The 10-year siege of Troy was the prologue. Odysseus was now navigate the Aegean and physically reclaim his palace before these interlopers consume his household and erase his legacy from within. The voyage immediately derails. A raid on the Cyclops leaves dozens of his men dead, and a storm blows the fleet far off course to the land of the Lotus Eaters, where the crew is fed a narcotic plant that makes them lose all desire to ever return home. Pushing forward, they find themselves trapped inside the cave of a monstrous man-eating Cyclops named Polyphemus. Odysseus manages to blind the giant with a sharpened, burning olive stake and escapes. But Polyphemus is the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea, who places a brutal curse on the fleet's journey. They actually come within sight of Ithaca's shores, aided by a bag containing the ocean's winds, a gift from the god Aeolus. But while Odysseus sleeps, his exhausted crew suspects he is hoarding gold. They open the bag and accidentally unleash a hurricane that blows them all the way back into uncharted waters. The fleet is then decimated by a race of giant cannibals, the Laestrygonians, who smash all but Odysseus's own ship. The surviving, traumatized crew lands on the island of Aea, where the witch goddess Circe turns half of them into pigs, a spell Odysseus only overcomes with an antidote from the god Hermes. To find a safe path forward, Circe directs him to do the unthinkable, sail to the edge of the underworld. Among the shades of the dead, Odysseus seeks out the blind prophet Tiresias, who warns him of the trials ahead and explicitly forbids his men from touching the sacred cattle of the sun god. Armed with this knowledge, the ship passes the Sirens. To survive their lethal, hypnotic song without losing control of the vessel, Odysseus has his men plug their ears with beeswax while he orders himself strapped to the mast, enduring the psychological torment without the physical ability to jump into the sea. Next, he navigates a narrow strait, bordered by Charybdis, a ship-swallowing whirlpool, and Scylla, a six-headed monster. Knowing he cannot fight Scylla, he deliberately sails closer to her, sacrificing 6 of his best men to save the rest from the whirlpool. Trapped by storms on the island of Thrinacia, his starving crew ignores the prophet's warning and slaughters the sacred cattle of Helios. In retaliation, Zeus obliterates the ship with a lightning bolt. Only Odysseus, who refused to eat the meat, survives the wreck. Every warrior who relied solely on swords or gave in to their immediate impulses lies dead at the bottom of the sea. Odysseus makes it through this gauntlet because he exercises tactical restraint and relies on his intellect, driven entirely by an obsessive focus on reuniting with his family. Washing ashore on the island of Ogygia, Odysseus is held captive for 7 years by the nymph Calypso. Eventually, the gods intervene, forcing her to let him build a raft. He reaches the island of the Phaeacians, a seafaring people who hear his story and load him onto a magical ship bound for Ithaca. While his father is sailing home, Telemachus is stepping out of his childhood. Guided by the goddess Athena, he voyages to the mainland kingdoms of Pylos and Sparta, gathering intelligence from old war veterans like Nestor and Menelaus and learning what it takes to govern. Odysseus finally wakes up on the shores of Ithaca, but he doesn't march to the palace with a sword. The goddess Athena transforms his appearance into a bald, withered, and impoverished beggar, hiding the true king in plain sight. He hikes inland to the farm of his fiercely loyal swineherd, Eumaeus. It is here in a humble stone hut rather than a throne room that Telemachus arrives from his own journey. Athena drops the disguise for a brief moment, allowing a tearful, quiet reunion between a father and the son he hasn't seen in 20 years. The disguise serves a highly specific tactical purpose. Outnumbered by dozens of heavily armed suitors, a true leader knows he must observe the battlefield, test the loyalty of his servants, and endure insults until the moment strikes to reclaim his position. Entering his own great hall as a beggar, Odysseus silently takes beatings and verbal abuse from the arrogant suitors. He watches them gorge on his food, all while maintaining his cover and speaking with Penelope, who still doesn't realize she is talking to her husband. Exhausted by the pressure, Penelope announces a final contest to decide who she will marry. She brings out Odysseus's massive hunting bow and declares she will wed the man who can cleanly string it and shoot a single arrow through the narrow sockets of 12 axe heads lined up in a row. One by one, the suitors try and fail to even bend the wood. The beggar asks for a turn. Ignoring their laughter, Odysseus picks up the weapon, inspects it, and effortlessly pulls the string taut. He fires the arrow perfectly through the axes, drops his rags, and with Telemachus at his side, turns the bow on the men who stole his home. The interlopers are trapped inside the hall without their weapons. They are dismantled by a single man's calculated timing, a level of patience earned through 20 years of misery that has become more lethal than any invading army. Even with the suitors dead, Penelope holds her guard. To verify he isn't an impostor or a trick of the gods, she tells a servant to move their heavy wooden marriage bed out into the hall for him to sleep on. Odysseus instantly flares up in anger, explaining that doing so is physically impossible. He carved one of the bedposts himself from a living olive tree rooted deeply into the earth. Hearing the secret only the two of them share, Penelope finally embraces him. The next morning, the families of the slaughtered suitors march on the farm, demanding blood. But before a civil war can erupt, the goddess Athena swoops down from Olympus, ordering both sides to drop their weapons and imposing a strict binding peace over the island. This marks the true completion of Nostos, the ancient Greek concept of a successful homecoming. The epic concludes when the king's marriage is validated, his son is raised, and his kingdom is finally restored to order. This epic maps out the difference between physical survival and true victory. We watch a king reclaim his world, but he does it by pairing the violence of a sword with an unbreakable spirit and a deeply calculating mind. Looking at the structure, the narrative milestones build a distinct map. The brutal aftermath of the Trojan War, Poseidon's crushing curse, the cultural laws of Xenia, the gauntlet of monstrous trials, Athena's invisible guidance, Telemachus's growth into a leader, Penelope's unshakable loyalty, the tactical power of disguise, the final judgment of the bow contest, and the rooted foundation of the olive tree bed. Thousands of years later, this story remains relevant because the core mechanisms haven't changed. While we may not face literal sea monsters, the epic reminds us that deep ties to family, hard-earned wisdom, and the quiet resilience to endure our darkest trials are the true compasses that guide us all home. Thanks for watching.